Section 23 of The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Katarina Huang. The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1, by Cao Xueqin. Translated by Henry Bancroft Jolly. Chapter 10, Part 2. The day after tomorrow, she felt obliged to add, is again our senior's Mr. Jia Jing's birthday. And how are we to celebrate it after all? I've just been over to our senior's and paid my respects, replied Jia Zhen, and further invited the old gentleman to come home and receive the congratulations of the whole family. I'm accustomed, our senior explained, to peace and quiet, and have no wish to go over to that worldly place of yours, for you people are certain to have published that it's my birthday, and to entertain the design to ask me to go round to receive the bowls of the whole lot of you. But won't it be better if you were to give the record of meritorious acts, which I annotated some time ago, to someone to copy out clean for me, and have it printed? Compared with asking me to come and uselessly receive the obeisances of you all, this will be even 100 times more profitable. In the event of the whole family wishing to pay me a visit on any of the 2 days, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, if you were to stay at home and entertain them in proper style, that will be all that is wanted. Nor will there be any need to send me anything. Even you needn't come 2 days from this. And should you not feel contented at heart, well, you had better bow your head before me today before you go. But if you do come again the day after tomorrow, with a lot of people to disturb me, I shall certainly be angry with you. After what he said, I will not venture to go and see him 2 days hence. But you had better send for Lai Sheng and bid him get ready a banquet to continue for a couple of days. Mrs. Yu, having asked Jia Rong to come round, told him to direct Lai Sheng to make the usual necessary preparations for a banquet to last for a couple of days, with due regard to a profuse and sumptuous style. You go by and by, she advised him, in person to the Western Mansion, and invite Dowager Lady Jia, Madams Xin and Wang, and your sister-in-law Secunda Lady Lin to come over for a stroll. Your father has also heard of a good doctor, and having already sent someone to ask him round, I think that by tomorrow he is sure to come, and you had better tell him in a minute manner the serious symptoms of her ailment during these few days. Jia Rong, having signified his obedience to each of her recommendations and taken his leave, was just in time to meet the youths coming back from Feng Ziying's house, whither he had gone a short while back to invite the doctor round. Your slave, he consequently reported, has just been with a card of masters to Mr. Feng's house and asked the doctor to come. The gentleman here, replied the doctor, has just told me about it. But today, I've had to call on people the whole day, and I've only this moment come home, and I feel now my strength so worn out, that I couldn't really stand any exertion. In fact, were I even to get as far as the mansion, I shouldn't be in a fit state to diagnose the pulses. I must therefore have a night's rest, but tomorrow for certain, I shall come to the mansion. My medical knowledge, he went on to observe, is very shallow, and I don't deserve the honour of such eminent recommendation. But as Mr. Feng has already thus spoken of me in your mansion, I cannot but present myself. It will be all right if in anticipation you deliver this message for me to your honourable master, but as for your worthy master's card, I cannot really presume to keep it. It was again at his instance that I've brought this back. But, sir, please mention this result for me to master. Jia Rong turned back again, and entered the house, delivered the message to Jia Zhen and Mrs. Yu, whereupon he walked out, and calling Lai Sheng before him, he transmitted to him the orders to prepare the banquet for a couple of days. After Lai Sheng had listened to the directions, he went off, of course, to get ready the customary preparations. But upon these we shall not dilate, but confine ourselves to the next day. At noon, a servant on duty at the gate announced that the Dr. Zhang, who had been sent for, had come, and Jia Zhen conducted him along the court into the large reception hall, where they sat down, and after they had partaken of tea, he broached the subject. Yesterday, he explained, the estimable Mr. Feng did me the honour to speak to me of your character and proficiency, venerable doctor, as well as of your thorough knowledge of medicine, and I, your mean brother, was filled with an immeasurable sense of admiration. Your junior, remonstrated Dr. Zhang, is a coarse, despicable, and mean scholar, and my knowledge is shallow and vile. But as worthy Mr. Feng did me the honour yesterday of telling me that your family, sir, had condescended to look upon me, a low scholar, and to favour me too with an invitation, could I presume not to obey your commands? But as I cannot boast of the least particle of real learning, I feel overburdened with shame. Why need you be so modest? Observed Jia Zhen. Doctor, do please walk in at once to see our son's wife, for I look up, with full reliance, to your lofty intelligence to dispel my solicitude. Jia Rong forthwith walked in with him. When they reached the inner apartment, and he caught sight of Mrs. Qin, he turned round and asked Jia Rong, "This is your honourable spouse, isn't it?" "Yes, it is," assented Jia Rong. "But please, doctor, take a seat, and let me tell you the symptoms of my humble wife's ailment, before her pulse be felt. Will this do?" "My mean idea is," remarked the doctor, "that it would, after all, be better that I should begin by feeling her pulse, before I ask you to inform me what the source of the ailment is. This is the first visit I pay to your honourable mansion. Besides, I possess no knowledge of anything. But as our worthy Mr. Feng would insist upon my coming over to see you, I had in consequence no alternative but to come. After I have now made a diagnosis, you can judge whether what I say is right or not. Before you explain to me the phases of the complaint during the last few days, and we can deliberate together upon some prescription, as to the suitableness or unsuitableness of which your honourable father will then have to decide, and what is necessary will have been done." "Doctor," rejoined Jia Rong, "you are indeed eminently clear-sighted. All I regret at present is that we have met so late. But please, doctor, diagnose the state of the pulse, so as to find out whether there be hope of a cure or not. If a cure can be effected, it will be the means of allaying the solicitude of my father and mother." The married women attached to that menage forthwith presented a pillow, and as it was being put down for Mrs. Qin to rest her arm on, they raised the lower part of her sleeve so as to leave her wrist exposed. The doctor thereupon put out his hand and pressed it on the pulse of the right hand, regulating his breath to the pulsation, so as to be able to count the beatings. He with due care and minuteness felt the action for a considerable time, when, substituting the left hand, he again went through the same operation. "Let us go and sit outside," he suggested, after he had concluded feeling her pulses. Jia Rong readily adjourned, in company with the doctor, to the outer apartment, where they seated themselves on the stove couch. A matron having served tea, "Please take a cup of tea, doctor," Jia Rong observed. When tea was over, "Judging," he inquired, "doctor, From the present action of the pulses, is there any remedy or not? The action of the pulse under the forefinger on the left hand of your honorable spouse, proceeded the doctor, is deep and agitated. The left hand pulse under the second finger is deep and faint. The pulse under the forefinger on the right hand is gentle and lacks vitality. The right hand pulse under my second finger is superficial and has lost all energy. The deep and agitated beating of the fore-pulse of the left hand arises from the febrile state, due to the weak action of the heart. The deep and delicate condition of the second part of the pulse of the left wrist emanates from the sluggishness of the liver, and the scarcity of the blood in that organ. The action of the forefinger pulse of the right wrist is faint and lacks strength, as the breathing of the lungs is too weak. The second finger pulse of the right wrist is superficial and devoid of vigor, as the spleen must be affected injuriously by the liver. The weak action of the heart, and its febrile state, should be the natural causes which conduce to the present irregularity in the catamenia and insomnia at night. The poverty of the blood in the liver and the sluggish condition of that organ must necessarily produce pain in the ribs, while the overdue of the catamenia, the cardiac fever, and debility of the respiration of the lungs should occasion frequent giddiness in the head and swimming of the eyes. The certain recurrence of perspiration between the periods of 3 to 5 and 5 to 7, and the sensation of being seated on board ship. The obstruction of the spleen by the liver should naturally create distaste for liquid or food, debility of the vital energies, and prostration of the four limbs. From my diagnosis of these pulses, there should exist these various symptoms before the pulses and the symptoms can be said to harmonize. But should perchance any doctor maintain that the state of the pulses imports a felicitous event, your servant will not presume to give an ear to such an opinion. A matron who was attached as a personal attendant to Mrs. Qin, and who happened to be standing by, interposed. "How could it be otherwise?" she ventured. "In real truth, doctor, you speak like a supernatural being, and there's verily no need for us to say anything. We have now, ready at hand, in our household, a good number of medical gentlemen, who are in attendance upon her, but none of these are proficient enough to speak in this positive manner. Some there are who say that it is a genital complaint, others maintain that it's an organic disease. This doctor explains that there is no danger, while another, again, holds that there is fear of a crisis either before or after the winter solstice. But there is, in one word, nothing certain said by them. May it please you, sir, now to favour us with your clear directions." "This complaint of your lady's," observed the doctor, "has certainly been neglected by the whole number of doctors, for had a treatment with certain medicines been initiated at the time of the first occurrence of her habitual sickness, I cannot but opine that, by this time, a perfect cure would have been effected. But seeing that the organic complaint has now been, through neglect, allowed to reach this phase, the calamity was, in truth, inevitable. My ideas are that this illness stands, as yet, a certain chance of recovery, 3 chances out of 10. But we will see how she gets on, after she has had these medicines of mine. Should they prove productive of sleep at night, then there will be added furthermore 2 more chances in the grip of our hands. From my diagnosis, your lady is a person gifted with a preeminently excellent and intelligent disposition, but an excessive degree of intelligence is the cause of frequent contrarieties, and frequent contrarieties give origin to an excessive amount of anxious cares. This illness arises from the injury done by worrying and fretting to the spleen, and from the inordinate vigour of the liver. Hence it is that the relief cannot come at the proper time and season. Has not your lady, may I ask, heretofore at the period of the catamenia, suffered, if indeed not from anemia, then necessarily from plethora? Am I right in assuming this or not?" "To be sure she did," replied the matron, "but she has never been subject to anemia, but to a plethora, varying from either 2 to 3 days, and extending, with much irregularity, to even 10 days. "Quite so," observed the doctor, after hearing what she had to say, "and this is the source of this organic illness. Had it in past days been treated with such medicine as could strengthen the heart and improve the respiration, would it have reached this stage? This has now overtly made itself manifest in an ailment originating from the paucity of water and the vigour of fire. But let me make use of some medicines, and we'll see how she gets on." There and then he set to work, and wrote a prescription, which he handed to Chia Rong, the purpose of which was decoction for the improvement of respiration, the betterment of the blood, and the restoration of the spleen. Ginseng, Atractylose lancea, Yunnan root, prepared Di root, Aralius agilis, Peony roots, Levisticum from Sichuan, Sophora tomentosa, Cyperus rotundus, prepared with rice, Gentian, soaked in vinegar, Huaishan Yao root, real glue, Corydalis ambiguae, and dried licorice. 7 Fujian lotus seeds, the cores of which should be extracted, and 2 large zizyphi to be used as in preparative. "What exhausted intelligence!" Chia Rong, after perusing it, exclaimed. "But I would also ask you, doctor, to be good enough to tell me whether this illness will, in the long run, endanger her life or not." The doctor smiled. "You, sir, who are endowed with most eminent intelligence, are certain to know that when a human illness has reached this phase, it is not a derangement of a day or of a single night. But after these medicines have been taken, we shall also have to watch the effect of the treatment. My humble opinion is that, as far as the winter of this year goes, there is no fear. In fact, after the spring equinox, I entertain hopes of a complete cure." Chia Rong was likewise a person with all his wits about him, so that he did not press any further minute questions. Chia Rong forthwith escorted the doctor and saw him off, and taking the prescription and the diagnosis, he handed them both to Chia Chen for his perusal, and in like manner recounted to Chia Chen and Mrs. Yu all that had been said on the subject. "The other doctors have hitherto not expressed any opinions as positive as this one has done," observed Mrs. Yu, addressing herself to Chia Chen, "so that the medicines to be used are, I think, surely the right ones." "He really isn't a man," rejoined Chia Chen, "accustomed to give much of his time to the practice of medicine, in order to earn rice for his support. And it's Feng Ziying who is so friendly with us, who is mainly to be thanked for succeeding, after ever so much trouble, in inducing him to come. But now that we have this man, the illness of our son's wife may, there is no saying, stand a chance of being cured. But on that prescription of his there is ginseng mentioned, so you had better make use of that caddy of good quality which was bought the other day." Chia Rong listened until the conversation came to a close, after which he left the room, and bade a servant go and buy the medicines, in order that they should be prepared and administered to Mrs. Qin. What was the state of Mrs. Qin's illness after she partook of these medicines, we do not know. But, reader, listen to the explanation given in the chapter which follows. End of section 23. Recording by Katarina Huang.